Hello and welcome back to this SlimDevOps episode 28. If you're watching this on YouTube, this was originally recorded live on January the 6th on twitch.tv/SlimDevOps. So if you want to join in interactively, come and give us a follow over there. Hello, Peter. Happy New Year.
Hey, Martin. Happy New Year. Happy 2022. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you. How about yourself?
I am doing well. Yeah, it's good to be back on stream. I feel like we got a nice little holiday break, and now it just feels good to be back. So, yeah, how was the holiday break for you?
Yes, very good. I had a whole bunch of things I was planning to do and ended up doing completely different things. I don't know about you, but usually I have like enough time around that sort of Christmas period to work on some projects, personal projects. Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, I tried to, and I did this time. I'll say I was actually like inspired by Yannick, French guy in the stream. I caught one of his streams right before he signed off for the year, and he was doing Advent of Code,
right?
Which for people who haven't tried it, it's sort of like some coding challenges, and they get progressively harder. And as some of the regulars in the stream know, I've been learning Rust, and so I said, okay, well, I've kind of read the Rust book at this point. I kind of like, I can only read about data types and structs and collections for so much. I actually want to try to build something. So I started doing some of the Advent of Code stuff, and it was a rude awakening. I'll say, the challenges aren't that hard. I definitely encourage people to do them, but having never really coded anything in Rust before, like actually getting it to do something like play bingo was quite a challenge. So that was I think I made it through about day 5 before I sort of gave up. But
yeah, I didn't expressly take part in that because I was doing stuff anyway. I didn't have the spare cycles to take on a bunch of coding challenges. I did see a few people who were using it as an opportunity to start getting into some programming again after being lapsed programmers, which was good to see.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I mean, and I think it's cool because there's a few years of them now. So if you go to adventofcode.com, I think Ellen Chiso, when she was on with us towards the end of the year, she was saying her husband was doing it as well. And, there's a bunch of different years you can choose from, and they do start pretty easy. But I think John's saying in the chat, it kicked his butt too, which makes me feel better because I definitely...
I looked at some of them and I was like, I'm not sure I want to out myself as being rusty. Not because I would have used Rust, but, rusty in some of these disciplines.
Right. I'll just say, and also as a Python developer, like somebody learning Rust, like having just like type checking, like turning, like when you're running just like binary code, zeros and ones, and you're like transitioning them into like, characters, then to strings, then to integers, then back, like I've never had to do any of this in Python, and why am I doing this? Because they're really just bits, and I know I'm doing this wrong, but it's working. So okay, good enough. What did you get up to this holiday break? Did you have any time to do anything fun? I know you were working on your retro gaming system.
So yes, I was. So I've got these. And this was what I wanted to be doing, what I expected to be doing. So I've got them out of the box to just give you an idea. I've been working on a little project, and it looks a bit like this. So there's a GitHub project here. It's called Retro Home, and it's a Raspberry Pi operating system for running, retro consoles and arcade machines, things of that nature. So the interesting ones I got is this, which looks like a Game Boy, same form factor as a Game Boy, but you put a Raspberry Pi compute module in it. So I was hoping that I was going to get this working, but more importantly, I was hoping I was going to get this one working, which is a miniature reproduction PlayStation 1 case that you put a Raspberry Pi 4 inside, and it even has a screen and you can plug the controllers in. These I just got out of the box moments before we went live. I haven't touched them the whole time, because I got co-opted into helping my family update their private recording studio, which sounds very, very highbrow, but it's just, what was their garage is now their recording studio. So I was setting up Mac OS with Logic Pro and Behringer 16-track recorders and all the rest of it. And so I actually spent a lot of time playing around with Mac OS over the holiday season, which was unexpected. And as a result, I have a Mac Mini over there
Welcome
behind me
dark
now.
side. Oh. Cats and dogs getting together, living in perfect harmony.
I know,
Wow.
I know.
Okay. Nice.
Now, I'm going to dual boot it with Linux, of course, but, it's currently running Mac OS. So, yeah. And I also did some reading about the H.264 protocol. And I read the source code, and I read a number of white papers about it.
Wow.
And we are bucking the Twitch caps here. So we now have elevated bitrate on our Twitch channel, which everyone is enjoying in glorious Technicolor now, because I learned how to do some clever stuff. Those were the three things that the one thing I didn't get to and the two things that I did.
Okay. Well, interesting. Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. So that's H.264. That's the the video encoding spec. Yeah. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So it's back to learning about coefficients and all of that sort of stuff again.
Wow.
Now, we should welcome back some of our regular viewers. So thank you very much for coming back. Yannick and John, hello again. And Esme, hello there. How are you? And Big Pod. And we should probably say an official welcome to Big Pod. Big Pod has been a part of all of these live streams since we started doing them, and has even presented with me on a couple of them. But Big Pod is now a member of the SlimAI team, working in the engineering team. So from community to employee. So congratulations, Big Pod. It's fantastic to have you with us.
Yeah, super great news. We got it right before the holidays, so I know it was in the works for a little while. But yeah, we're super excited, and I think Big Pod is he's working out a bunch of examples over on the Docker Slim side, and so we're hoping that he's going to come share some of those with us on stream, and then I'm hoping to rope him into helping us with some of these Container 101 things that we've been doing on stream and some of those blog posts, because I think we have a good set of example libraries that we want to get to here in the new year, and hopefully that'll be interesting for everybody. So yeah, welcome Big Pod. I'm excited to
I've already said to Big Pod that I want to do another stream with him, and I'd like to look at the examples that he's been working on, because he's been refreshing those like nobody's business. So we should take a look at those.
Okay, Big Pod, not to put you on the spot, but in chat, just type out who your favorite person at Slim is. Just your favorite person. No, I'm just kidding, of course, but I'm sure it's everybody. Nice. All right. Well, cool. Well, so we also, over the holidays, Martin, we had a pretty cool, speaking of kind of props for some of the SlimAI side, we had a pretty cool tweet that we got. Somebody who I follow on Twitter and have for a little while. He does really great illustrations of different DevOps concepts and cloud native concepts. His name's Ivan Valechko. And he actually, unprompted by us, just to be clear, I don't think we even sent him swag or anything. Just had been using the platform and sent this tweet out over the holidays, which was pretty cool to see, and giving us some props for some of the work we've been doing. Now, you had mentioned that he actually called out one of the new features that we have on the platform, which is the ability to diff a container to two different containers that are not actually in the same repo or from the same publisher. Is that right?
Indeed. Yeah. So there's a couple of screenshots here. The first is, you can see from his account, he's connected just about all of the repo connectors that we have. So he's got sight of everything that's going on in all of the places that he works with container images. And then he showed this, which was using the Diff tool to look at HTTP bin published by two different developers. And using that, he was able to actually determine, what were the differences between these two containers of, in air quotes, the same thing. And I find this screenshot really interesting, because how do you determine the quality of one container over another? And here it is laid out bare. There's two container images here, and no disrespect to either of the developers, but I know which one I would choose if I conducted a diff like this that I wanted to put into production. And if you're wondering, it's the one on the right.
little cleaner, a little better label than all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly so.
Yeah. And so we've shown, and we've done at office hours, and I know most of the people on stream have seen sort of the ability. So usually the example we use is like, latest to stable or latest to slim, and that'd be if you're in the node repo. This would actually be like kind of like taking sort of two completely separate images. Maybe one even lives on Amazon ECR and one lives on Docker Hub or something like that. Right. And you could actually diff those images, and that's something that we released, I believe, towards the beginning of last month. So it's only been out there for a little while, so it's kind of cool to see somebody using it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you say, it's something that we've done against revisions in the same by the same publisher in the same repository, but now it goes well beyond that. It's a very powerful utility for doing due diligence in your selection for containers in your infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think if people have seen us do some of the every once in a while we're messing around with tags and stuff like that to get diff to work, well, this kind of like takes all of that away, which is pretty cool. So I think we'll play around with this in office hours in Discord tomorrow. Usually we do that around 10 a.m. Eastern time, our time, maybe 10:30, and we can play around with a couple examples in there to show people what that looks like. But we do have the public, the product feedback channel in the Slack channel, so encourage people to give this a try, in the Discord channel. So please give this a try and let us know what you think. If you run into issues, if it's useful, if you see reasons that it could be improved, please let us know. We're definitely all ears on this.
Yeah.
I would say don't do something like diff Node and Python. They're just too different.
You can. It'll be wildly confusing, but yeah. So if you want to join our Discord, you can find those details in the About page here on Twitch, but also the URL above my head, you'll find links to all of the places to connect with us. And also we have another new feature on the stream, which I'm going to take use of. Big Pod was asked who his favourite person at Slim is, and his answer was his favourite person at Slim is himself, in fact. So good on you.
Well done.
Big Pod also goes on to say there are so many amazing people at Slim, and Yannick is confused by this because he says, really strange, I'm not there. So this is a new feature. We haven't been embedding chat in the live streams because there was a period where there was lots of spam botting going on, and we didn't want to run the risk of burning in something unfortunate into the streams. But we now have this mechanism where we can pluck particular messages out of the commentary from our viewers, and we will put those on screen as we discuss the questions that you pose to us.
Awesome. Big Pod, it's the same favorite person that I have at Slim. So aligned with you there, myself. No, just kidding. Jokes. All right. Well, Martin, so we're talking about something today. We're going to do a little example. You're going to take us through a little bit of a tutorial today. This is something we've been talking about for a pretty long time, so I'm pretty excited to kind of get started on it. And that is sort of breaking into the land of multi-container applications, or microservices, you might call them, microservices architecture. And we'll be doing this through Docker Compose. So this is kind of Yannick was actually asking, is this our Compose 101 stream? And I think it will be, although I think our goal for today, right, is we're going to try to set up for sort of a deeper dive into breaking our photo app into a set of microservices later on. Is that right? Yeah. So what we're looking at here is a blog post that we have on the SlimAI site. So if people are just trying to kind of get an understanding of Docker Compose and how to get started with it, and just like why you would do this, what the power is behind using multiple containers in an app, you're sort of building from that hello world, create a single container tutorial. We had a great writer, kind of a good DevOps person named Nicholas Barocas, who wrote this article for us. And it really lays out a very good step-by-step article in building basically an application that has a client, an API, and a database. And he uses Mozilla Kinto, which I hadn't used before, which I thought was pretty cool, along with a few other tools. You might need to help me with the pronunciation on this. It's N8N, which is kind of like a workflow development open source tool. I don't know if anybody yourself or in the chat
Is
have
it-
experience with this, but
Is it Notion? Is that what they're getting at? Usually there's the 8. It dictates how many letters are missing between the other letters.
yeah, possibly. It's not the Notion app though. It's actually like it's kind of like a WYSIWYG workflow development app. There's a screenshot of it further down on the page, but you can actually get it up and running using this. And it's sort of something like if you're going to set up like a services architecture or something like that, and you wanted to, I think it's probably down at the very bottom where you can get a screenshot of the application itself, because this kind of walks through, sort of builds out the Docker Compose file on a step-by-step basis, and kind of links it all together and says what it's doing. Yeah, so this is sort of what it looks like. So if you're kind of stringing together some requests and stuff like that. So it's kind of some cool tools to put together, but also gives you a very crisp and clean Docker Compose file at the very end. So if people are looking to kind of do some work on their own or do some homework, please check out this blog post. It's pretty easy to find just at the Slim.AI/blog. You can look that up. But that'll be a good segue into what you're going to be working on, Martin, today, which is actually starting the beginnings of creating a Docker Compose file for our photo app. Is that right?
That's right. So we've pushed up a tutorial to our GitHub. So you can go to github.com/SlimDevOps, and in the Slim containers repo, there is the Containers 101 Docker Compose. So this is the text that we're going to be working from today. So in episode 14, we took the app that you created and we used volumes to persist data, because your photo app uploaded pictures, we needed to store those, and then we also needed to store the database as well, the database for it. So that's what we did back then, and here is the Docker file that this is a slightly tweaked version because we've learned some best practice since we did that. So this is a slightly refined version of the Docker file, but as you can see, it's a Python app. We've got a working directory. We copy in our app assets and change the ownership to the user that we're going to be running the app as. We install the pip requirements. That could probably be done a little bit more optimally, but okay. We then set which user we're going to run the service as, the port it runs on, and then the entry point. So a fairly simple and typical Docker image. But then we need to go and do some stuff. So let's just move that there. Let's bring up my terminal. There we go. I think I might need to make that a little bit. Why is that misbehaving? Oh, because it's such a long path. That's annoying. Okay, that's deeply annoying. Okay, I wasn't anticipating that. Let's do this a different way then. Let's do it like this. Let's go to VS Code. We'll use the Markdown, and here we are. So we've got the terminal above and below. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create the place where we're going to actually store our data. Our app needs to store the images and the database. So we're just going to create a directory for that in the SRV directory. And that's where you normally put, network served assets. And then we're going to change the permissions on all of that to be the 3W's data user so that it's consistent with what the container's expecting. Now, I'm not going to build the container with Docker, but if we were to build the container with Docker, we would do this, which you'll be familiar with, do a build, give it a name, use the Docker file, and then, hang on a moment, I'm going to get caught out because I'm not in the right directory. And then we would run the Docker file like so, and this then maps the port 5000, and it mounts these volumes to the places that we've just created. So that's how you would do it with Docker, but what we're going to jump into now is, let's add Docker Compose into the mix. And like you say, Docker Compose is really designed for multi-service architecture, and we don't have that yet, but we're introducing Docker Compose now to make some of this a little bit easier. So To understand how Docker Compose work, there's basically 3 steps to the process. You need to define your app using a Docker file, which we've already done, and then we need to define the services that make up the whole app in a Docker Compose YAML, and this is so that they can run together in an isolated environment. And then we build and start our entire app. So we aren't going to break things into multiple services today. What we are going to do is use Docker Compose to build and run the app that we have. So here is what the YAML looks like for our, in fact, I'll look at it here. Here's the YAML. The version number dictates the the version of Docker Compose syntax that is supported. We've embedded links in the document to where you can find out what the different versions compatibility with the Docker engine are. 3.8 is the latest. And then the services, you can have multiple services, and we've just got one, and I've called it Photo App, which is the Flask application that you wrote. We're going to build from the current directory, which basically means use the Docker file that we have to create our Docker image. But then here we're able to do that port mapping that we had to do on the command line with Docker, and we can also define the volume mapping that we need. So this makes it quite a lot easier to actually start and run the containers. So this one single command here does everything. So we're just going to run Docker Compose up, and that will build the container image, and now the container image is running. So if I flip over to my browser, which is this, not that one apparently. Why did that not? Oh, it's the wrong window. Sorry, I'm getting confused with which window is what now.
So just while you're there, so just for people who maybe didn't see the episode 14, what we had done in that was basically create volumes that read into our container. So that's kind of one, was creating those folders locally, and one of the big advantages of using Docker Compose over sort of just running Docker from the command line is that you don't have to kind of remember where all of your volumes map to, or copy and paste your kind of Docker run command in. Is that right? Yeah.
Indeed. So
Yannick, to be fair, I'll ask that you don't I'll ask you don't highlight this tweet, but Yannick says app might be a bit overstating it, to be fair. So which is fair. It's not much of an app. We'll make it better. Don't worry, Yannick. You'll see. It's going to be great. But
we'll get on to how we're going to improve it. So we were uploading swag and things last time. So let's upload a picture of our Cody socks. So it's in the swag category, and there we go. So we've uploaded our image here, and we'll upload a couple more just for the purposes of demonstration. So we always like some tea, so we'll upload some tea, and let's upload some cookies. There we go. These are some of our favorite things. So now we've got those uploaded, we can now just go through the photo gallery and look at those images. So there they all are. There's our app running. And now I will shut down the app. And if we take a look in our path here, we'll see that the database got created by the application, and there are the 3 images that we uploaded. So that's very simple. That took care of mounting the volumes for us, starting the app, doing all of the port forwarding. So that's terrific. But there's a couple of other advantages to using Docker Compose. So you can do Docker Compose up -d, which will start it in detached mode. And we demonstrated this with Docker itself a few episodes back. So now that's running. You see I'm not seeing anything in the terminal for standard out for the application running, but I can now run Docker Compose PS, and I can look to see that app, there it is, it's running. And in fact, if I go over here, I can refresh, and there it is. And I can, upload another file. Why not? Let's do t-shirts. There we go, some more swag. So there's one of our t-shirts. Let's upload that to the collection. And as we start and stop we can start and stop this app with Docker Compose, but where this gets powerful when we do this, when we've got multiple services, is it start and stops the collection of containers together. So I'm gonna stop the container, and this takes a little bit longer because this actually has like a timeout on it, but it will bring that service down, and momentarily there it is. We can look here, we can see all the data that we started, and Docker PS, it tells us that the app has exited. But because I've stopped it, I can just start it now. That this collection of containers, a single container at the moment, but this collection, it can be simply restarted with that. And now I can come back to my app and refresh it, and here it is running again. So I really quite like two things about Docker Compose. I like this simpler syntax to start, stop, build containers. There's less or rather fewer switches and arguments that you need to know about in order to manipulate Docker to do these things. So actually it's very useful from that point of view. And also I find the sort of self-documenting nature of the Docker Compose YAML file particularly attractive. I've been used to using YAML for a few years for a number of configurations in different systems, so this feels quite comfortable and familiar to me, whereas the Docker file, there's something about it that has always felt a little bit lumpy. It's an unusual syntax, so I like the markup that's in use here. And then in addition to starting and stopping, we also have down. And so what down does is it brings everything down, and it stops the containers, but also removes those containers from your list of available containers, and it shuts off the network and the volumes and everything. So start and stop, just to turn things on and off. It leaves the containers behind, so they can just be quickly restarted. Down actually removes those containers from your list. So I'll show you what I mean by that. If we do docker ps all, we can see there is the container left behind from running docker start. So if we start the container, and then this time we will bring the container down, that will take just a couple of seconds to complete. And when it does, when we go and look at docker ps, just a couple more, there it is. If we go and look at docker ps, the container is now gone. So this is, cleans up after itself, which is a little bit more friendly and intuitive than having to know you need to run Docker with a bunch of switches to tell it to clean up after itself if you're developing and iterating locally.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you find yourself copying and pasting Docker run commands into text files and saving those for later so you don't lose your configurations, or if you find yourself running out of virtual memory on your machine because Docker has gotten too many containers coming down, Docker Compose is like a good solution to that. I think early on in the streams, people who watch some of the early streams, I think I'm particularly guilty of this, forgetting to stop a container, or forgetting that you name two containers the same thing and running into errors that way. Docker Compose really makes it so you don't have to worry about that stuff as much.
Indeed. So we'll just have a little recap of where we are. This is what we currently have. We have a monolithic application. It's written in Python with the Flask framework. It is exposed over port 5000, so you'd put a load balancer or something in front of that, or a reverse proxy, to actually make that app available on the web. and then it talks directly to the images store of each of the photographs, and it is the back end as well as the front end, and also talks to the database directly. So that's what we currently have, and this is what we're going to move towards. So we're going to go to a multi-service app. Quite possibly the front end will be rewritten in Nuxt.js, which is what we use here at Slim for, I think, all of our front end development. That will be exposed on port 5000, will be the thing that it is exposed to, the public internet for people to interact with the app. The back end will continue to be, that Python Flask app that you've got, but just for the back end. It will talk to the images volume, or rather have access to the images volume to store the uploaded images. And in turn, that Python backend will communicate to, quite likely, a Postgres database server, and that database server will have access to the volume that stores the database files itself. So this is where our one Docker Compose file can be used to express this entire architecture.
Cool. Super interesting. We had a couple suggestions, of course, Flutter and ASP.NET. I'll give you two guesses on where those came from for the front ends. But I guess in this setup, we could actually do, technically we could do all of them, right? We could, if we wanted to use Flutter for sort of mobile app development, if we wanted ASP.NET, Big Pod, you'll have to explain to me what the advantage of doing ASP.NET is. But we could do all of those as separate services, and that's kind of not that you would do that in a realistic standpoint, but you could, and that's what we're sort of building to, rather than having everything all together in one. So I guess we can start a big database debate as well, for which is the best relational database.
Is it a key store? Yeah, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, when we have split this thing up, it will then lead us into demonstrating another feature that's coming to the Slim platform. So people will be aware we are the sponsors of an open source project called Docker Slim, which you can use to minify your container images by 10 to 30 times. That minification process is being built into the Slim platform with a easy to use user interface to sort of take you through that minification process. And one of the things that we'll be demonstrating is how to use your Docker Compose file, or your composed multi-service architecture, and minify the whole logical application rather than individual container images. So that's sort of like the end goal of going through this, breaking everything up into multiple services.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of the questions we get a lot from people about Docker Slim is, like, what if there are interactions that happen, as you're spinning up the app and stuff like that? And so this recent Docker Compose improvement, was meant to address some of those things. So, yeah. Oh, and our podcast just joined us, and he says that he did an amazing interview with Vue.js framework, which he's going to experiment with later. Yeah, we've been playing around a lot with Vue.js. Vue is actually the front end for Slim.AI, and then we use Nuxt, which is a framework around Vue.js to do the Slim portal. And we're definitely looking for people, if there are people out in the audience or others that who are using Vue and Nuxt quite a bit. We're looking for examples, because we're trying to get through some minification examples of that. So please let us know. Hopefully we can do some exploration on that framework. It seems pretty interesting.
Yeah, indeed. I think there's going to be a bunch of front end stuff we'll be looking at in the not too distant future. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to welcome Nano433 and also C455I, who are first time chatters in our stream. Thank you very much for stopping by and joining us. Do follow, because we're going to be going over a whole bunch of container optimization stuff over the coming weeks, and unveiling new features that will be available to you, people that follow us here, And if you really want the inside skinny, do join our Discord, because we're going to be doing some more office hours sessions. So I think we're going to do one tomorrow, and we're going to dive into this container diffing across repositories and publishers tomorrow. So we're going to look at that in some more details to show you how you can use those tools to sort of do some auditing of container images before you put them into use.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So yeah, Discord link is sorry, I reversed my screen.
Right above.
So I know, you're lucky you can just do that. I have to figure out which side it is. This one. There we go.
I never know which way to go. Well,
this
so
is
that's
Martin's the expert streamer, and I'm just learning. So
that's the setup. Thank you all very much for stopping by. We are going to raid our friends at Pulumi, who are doing a stream. Oh, have they just finished? They have just gone offline.
They just finished.
Oh, disappointed. We were going to drop over to our friends at Pulumi. So if you're not familiar, I'll put a link in the chat now. That's where you should go. This is another organization doing things like this, showing developers how to use tools and containers and what have you to be more efficient. And they were doing one of Pulumi and Docker, and we use Pulumi at Slim.
Yep.
So that's a shame.
Yep.
I was really hoping we would be able to catch them, but they've just wound up. But you can always go over there and watch the VOD.
Yeah, it's too bad, and they tend to stream about the same time we do. So hopefully we can figure out kind of a team collaboration at some point with them. But they're like an infrastructure as code company, really cool stuff. And yeah, I know our developers here are pretty excited about it. So we'll probably get some demos from some of our engineers in the coming weeks. So.
Well, so Yannick is obviously very interested in the fact we're going to be touching on more front end stuff. Maybe Yannick, this will be the push you need to, embrace containers a bit more wholeheartedly. So yeah, we'll be covering some of the popular JavaScript frameworks and other stuff too. Right, well, let's not beat about the bush. That's it for now. Come and join our Discord. We'll have an office hours tomorrow. And if you've got questions, or maybe you want to request something that we cover in more detail in one of these sessions, let us know in our Discord, and we'll follow up on that.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining. Happy New Year. Looking forward to a great year of streaming. And just thanks for all the positive vibes in 2021, and looking forward to doing more in 2022. So
Indeed. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.